Howdy folks, MLR results. If I'm not mistaken, we have our playoff teams decided in the MLR. But yeah, we'll get to that in a second. There were these 5 games on the weekend in the MLR. Penultimate round of the regular season. We'll go over the scorelines, the upcoming fixtures and the standings and whatnot. And you guys can let me know your thoughts. ATL and Toronto. ATL seem to be kind of back where they were a few weeks ago after a bit of a bad run. 34-23 comeback win over the Arrows. They got the first try through Momsen, but then Toronto kicked a couple of penalties. Toronto were wearing some red hoop kit, which was a bit different. There were a few teams in different kits, I'm guessing because like Memorial Day or something. But yeah, 7 points to 6. Toronto go in front. Fingertip try from the right wing Sheridan. And then Brody snipes through a gap, the halfback, to make it 23-7 after like 29 minutes. But look how many points Toronto got. That's their last score into the game. So, yeah, probably one they'll want to have back a little bit because ATL begin their comeback before halftime and then continue it on in the second half. Their maul gets a pretty nice try. Coleman gets a pretty nice try. Toronto, like I mentioned, no points in that second half. So, yeah, man, in an Eastern Conference match, I think Toronto may have been too far behind anyway, looking at the points score now, because Houston are on... oh, no, it's not Houston. They're in the West. New York's on 52. They would have been in the 40s. Toronto's still only on 40 now. They would have been on 45. I think it was going to be a bit of a mission anyway. But this certainly confirms it. Yeah, they're fourth in the East. Toronto with their 8-7 record. So still above 500. But yeah, it's not going to be a playoff season for them. At ATL, they are second in the East. It's all very tight between them and New York. But we'll see after one round more who finishes where. Yeah, they are home to NOLA next, so they'll back themselves after NOLA had kind of another poor run, and then Toronto are home to DC. They'll likewise back themselves, but DC have certainly been scoring a lot of points recently. Utah and the Giltinis, 39-32 to the away side. So LA are now first in the West. Only just barely, though, but yeah, man, their maul is still pretty brutal. I mean, Abel gets a try pretty early. Lasike got one in reply. Utah had to work through the phases. But if you want someone to get over the advantage line to get you that try, Paul Lasike is your guy. So 5 points to 7. But then, man, LA with the penalties. And then there was a lead change again, I think, when Utah scored another try. But, I mean, after 45 minutes, it's 20 points to 17. But LA, man, they're maul. It just went like again and again. I think Utah ended up with like 3 yellow cards in this game. It's pretty crazy, not helping things. Hermage's try essentially is the killer blow, but Utah are at least able to bring it back to within a score, but they knock it on at the death, so we don't get that kind of grandstanding finish. I mean, you did get it within 7, so the home fans had something to cheer about, but yeah, it ended with a bit of disappointment for them. But as I mentioned, LA first in the West, 54 points. So they're a point ahead of the Gilgronis with 1 round to go. So important win for them. Utah, who have been a bit resurgent in the last month or so, you know, they've still got a losing record to finish the season. It's a shame they couldn't find this form a bit earlier. They're away to Dallas, so we'll be looking to add some more misery to that Dallas season with that last game. LA are home to Seattle, so that's a big game for them to stay ahead of AG. Speaking of AG, they got a win over San Diego, 44 points to 28. So they're on 1 point behind the Giltinis boys on 53 points. And Lockie McCaffrey in this game was just offloading like a beast. He gets a couple of try assists. Sorry, not Fraser. Who was the guy? Lawrence, the halfback, the big unit of a halfback for AG. He gets their first try. San Diego did reply though, but then McCaffrey offloads to Turnbull. He gets a couple of tries plus their maul. They got a 24-7 lead. Halftime it's 31-14. After I think there was their wide try to Awake for San Diego, so they weren't going away. But I mean the AG mauls again. When you've got a 41-14 lead, you should be winning the game. I mean, San Diego make a little bit of a comeback. Nonu gets a line break, an intercept, really. He's not got the gas to go the length of the field anymore at 40 years old, but it at least leads to the Mattias try. So, yeah, they kept fighting, but it was all a bit too little too late for San Diego. So, yeah, they're on 43 points in the West. I don't think they can catch Houston. I think Houston's on 48. So, yeah, it seems very unlikely. I don't know what the points difference is. But anyway, I mean, AG, as I said, 53, they're second in the West. So, yeah, they'll be finding it out with this last round for that spot with the Giltinis. But we'll see which side prevails. And San Diego, oh, that's right, because they got the bye. So they can't go any higher. Yeah, that's it. That's it for them. They're on the bye in the final round. So if they needed to get it done, it needed to be this week, and they didn't. So, yeah, that's why. That's why they can't catch Houston. I was doing my head in for a second. The next one, DC and New York. Man, goodness gracious. What's up with DC in these huge scoring games? 59-49. What a crazy scoreline. Fraser got the first try for DC. New York got a maul try. Naholo gets a couple of tries in this one. One of them's kind of a length of the field one. It's real tit for tat. Fidel gets 3 tries. A couple of them dinks through for him. He's got absolute wheels. One of them's from Jason Emery. Halftime, it's 26-21 to New York. Naholo, like I mentioned, gets one off turnover ball. By 54 minutes, it's 54-21. So New York's literally going at a point a minute. And then they score their last try through Andy Ellis on 55 minutes. They score their last try in 55 minutes. Can you imagine if they'd kept scoring? But then 21 unanswered points from DC. At least keep it a bit more respectable, but it's another loss. But goodness gracious, what a bonkers game that one. Some really good dinks through from both sides, to be honest. Scored some pretty sweet looking tries. So, yeah, crazy stuff. I mean, DC are still 6th, but as I mentioned earlier, I think they've been in really much better form in the last quarter of the season compared to the entire rest of the season. They are away to Toronto. New York's 3rd in the West. And they are on 52 points. So they are on the same points as ATL. So those guys could swap places. But nobody's catching New England because they're miles ahead of everybody. So, yeah. And interestingly, New York have got New England away in their final game. So it's going to be a tough ask and could be a potential Eastern Conference final. Sorry, we'll have to kind of wait and see. Last one, New England, speaking of them, they smashed the NOLA boys 57-5. NOLA only managed to not get nilled with a try in the last minute. So at no point were they really at the races in this game. Bodie Nwaka was back this week. Wide pass from him sets up Wilson, who has a bit of a field day in this one. On the right wing, the maul tries accumulate, man. By halftime, it's 29-0. Dougie Fife gets on the board. 2 tries that are very soft from NOLA. Just turnover ball, and then the New England guys are just running for it. So pretty poor, to be honest, from NOLA. But credit to them for getting 5 points at the end. But man, New England, after dropping the game last week, looked back to their lethal best, didn't they? So 13-2, easily the best record in the MLR thus far. So yeah, they've got New York at home, like I mentioned. 1st in the East, nobody's catching them. So the conference final awaits. NOLA 5th in the East, away to ATL to end their season this week. So, yeah, interesting rounds, guys. Like I mentioned, LA on 54, AG on 53, and then Houston on 48. So that's still all to play for in the West between those 3. New England are secured at the top on 61, ATL and New York both on 52. It's just for figuring out who finishes 2nd and who finishes 3rd in that lot. Obviously, Seattle, Houston, and Dallas on the byes this week. We will see them next week. It's just San Diego that we say goodbye to now because their season is done. But yes, you guys let me know your thoughts on this round. How do you see things lining up in the final round? And yeah, I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.